all, Stephanie with Minimalist Mom Life. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a video that's been requested for a couple of months, but I wanted to do one more road trip before I actually tried to write down tips on how we travel tech-free with our kids. If you're new to my channel, I have 4 children, which still feels crazy to say. I have a 4-year-old little boy, 3-year-old little boy, 2-year-old little boy, and a 7-month-old baby girl. Excuse me, 4th child, right? Can't remember. And we do travel tech-free with our kids. We have always traveled. My husband and I talked about our love for travel like on our first date. So it's always been a huge part of Jason and I, and we wanted to share that with our kids. And our dream in living minimally and not having a lot of stuff is that our kids would maybe not have a playroom full of toys, but that they would have a world full of experiences. And same thing with debt-free living. We live really frugally and keep to a grocery budget and a clothing budget and things like that so that we can hopefully give our kids a lot of awesome experiences and see the amazing world around them. So I did write down some tips. The kind of travel that we have done has primarily been by airplane, but we have started doing more road trips. Martin started flying, that's my oldest, when he was 6 weeks old. We flew from South Carolina to California. And then he's been that same first few months of life. He went from South Carolina to Texas a couple times. At 5 months old, we went to Ethiopia on a mission trip, so that was a 17-hour flight. Then when he was 1.5 and we had George, and George was 5 months old, we flew with them to Hawaii from California. And then we have been to New Mexico when Martin was just turned 2, Elliot was 3 months old, and George was 10 months old. And then we flew with them to Texas this last, like a year ago. So then Martin was, 3, George had just turned 2, and Elliot was like 1.5, and I was pregnant with Lucy. Road trips, we have done an RV trip. It was about 13 hours long from Southern California up to Oregon, and we stopped and did the Redwoods and the Golden Gate Bridge and saw San Francisco, and then did some cool stuff in Oregon and came back down. But more recently, last weekend, we went up to Northern California. It was about a 9-hour drive to where we are moving. My husband has accepted a new position as a pastor up there, and we had all 4 kids with us for that. So that was a trip that I was like, okay, after this one, I will see if I have any tips. So on the way home from the trip, towards the end, I asked my husband, if he was asked this question by somebody, like what would he say? What did he think of the road trip with kids and the lack of, use of any technology to entertain them? And so we came up with a list. I will say that we don't do a lot of tech in our home to begin with. My oldest is 4, and he usually gets a show during nap time, Monday through Friday, but on the weekends, he doesn't normally get any TV because Daddy's home during nap time, so I can get a break that way. And then my 3-year-old, we had gotten in kind of a bad habit of he woke up first, and so allowing him to have cartoons first thing in the morning sometimes, just to kind of like ease into the morning. But I didn't like that habit, and that might work for some families, but it wasn't a good one for us or for him. He would be really cranky when we turn it off. So he doesn't get that anymore, so most days he gets no, screen time, no TV, no movies. Now, if we're having like a specific, like a movie night for the kids because we're going on a date night and they get to watch a movie with their babysitter, then he gets it. It's not a big deal. He doesn't ask for it, and neither does a 4-year-old, so it's not a big deal. My 2-year-old, you cannot get him to sit and watch something. Even if we do a movie night, he will watch for 5 seconds and get up and run off. So he's like his mama. He has no attention span for that kind of thing. And then obviously we do nothing for Lucy. She's 7 months old. We still are very much that family that does not do any screen time until you're at least 2. We don't own a tablet. Our kids don't get our phones, and they don't play computer games or anything, and we don't either. So that's just not something they do. All that to say, our choice to be tech-free in our travel is also because that's just not something that we do at home. And so if you use technology to keep your kids entertained, that's a parenting decision every parent makes. I love you, like, it's fine. That's just everybody makes their own decision. So this video is probably for the people that either don't do it at all or don't want to do it or kind of just, want to know, they're nosy, want to know what we do. So we just don't do it. It makes you have to be a little more creative maybe when you're driving, but at the same time and traveling, I think back to my childhood, and I'm not that old. I'll turn 30 at the end of this year, but we traveled a lot. My parents took us, my dad was in the military, we were stationed on the East Coast, and my grandparents were all in New Mexico. So in order to see family, we had to travel quite a ways. And we didn't do it, I think maybe like every other year, if you, averaged it out, that we actually got to travel to go see them. But I will say that we never had technology, cars didn't have it back then, and people didn't have cell phones when I was really little. So it was not a big deal. I enjoyed those road trips, and my parents talked to me and gave me snacks, and I had my siblings, and it was a fun time. So that's kind of the mindset that I've gotten into with my kids. I really think it's important when we feel like things are important parts of our kids' childhood just because everyone else has them. Like, did you have them as a kid? Was it a big deal if you didn't? You know, kind of a reality check to like, do we really need screens? And you don't. And there's so much that we don't need that we can kind of think we need because the Joneses have it or so-and-so that travels has it, but you don't. So here is what we do to keep our kids occupied without screens during travel. Number one, I'm sorry, none of these are earth-shattering, but it's snacks. Snacks go a long way to keep everybody entertained, right? We all know that we tend to eat if we're bored. I would recommend when you're giving your kids snacks, giving them very small amounts at a time. So if you're giving them crackers, give them like 2 Ritz crackers, and then 5 minutes later get a couple more, and then a tiny bit of fruit snack or a tiny bit of banana or whatever. Not because you're trying to stretch out the food necessarily, but you're trying for them to not inhale it in 5 seconds, and then it was of no entertainment. So making it kind of a treat, kind of a novelty to eat along the way. I think long road trips are not the time to stress eating a big meal. Allow them to snack all day, and then when you finally stop at the play place at Chick-fil-A or McDonald's, then don't worry if they are not hungry at all and they just want to go play in the play area and then you and your husband eat because you haven't been snacking. That is totally fine. Use that snacks as your entertainment. My number 2 tip is picture books, and these are great. None of my oldest can read somewhat, but not enough to like sit down and really read a book. And a lot of people get sick reading in the car, so be wary of even your slightly older kids reading in the car. But picture books. Dollar Tree has a lot of great picture books that are just different animals. Like we got one of cats and dogs. And they have a small, like 1 or 2 word sentence underneath, like on each page, but not enough that they have to actually really read it. And our boys loved these books, even made up their own stories telling us what the puppies and cats were doing. They named the puppies and cats. They picked out their favorite puppies and cats. So picture books are great. Coloring is a great thing for younger children. If you're going on an airplane, I recommend getting the Color Wonder that only color on specific paper, so there's no way they can color any part of the airplane around them. But coloring is great. Dollar Tree has these little like pictures that have like a scratch off thing, and you scratch off and then you discover the picture. My 4-year-old could do it. The other 2 are a little too young to really press hard enough to do it. But stuff like that is great to kind of keep them occupied every once in a while and a little bit quieter. And those are great for the airplane too. Like just keep bringing them out every 20-30 minutes. Keep bringing them out. The nice thing with airplane travel is there's a lot going on. There's a lot of getting on the plane, getting off the plane, getting the snack on the plane they bring you. There's people to watch. There's kind of more going on, so I feel like kids are naturally entertained by that. Plus, an airplane is such a different experience. They can be very entertained by that. In a car, when you're going to be in the car for 9 hours in one day, other than stops, it can get a little bit more monotonous. So I feel like you need a few more things for them to actually do. My next tip, and I feel like I sound like a homeschool mom. When I say this, no offense if you're a homeschool mom, but you don't really want to sound like one. Memory work. Like, it is a great time when you're in the car with your kids to do memory work. Now, if you're in an airplane, obviously you need to do this quieter. Don't be disruptive and rude to everybody else. But what Bible verses are they memorizing? Going over with them. If we're working on our kids learning some Hungarian, because my husband is Hungarian, so learning those words. Going over whatever things you're teaching them, the alphabet or their colors or whatever. You're not quizzing them. This is not a test. There's no stress. You're just literally educating your child and learning with them and entertaining them by doing it. So memory work, that's a great time to do that. Next on that, again, not if you're in an airplane, but if you're in a car, is singing songs together. It is a great time to let them each practice singing the song or work on the hymns you're memorizing together, or laugh and do karaoke and belt out the music coming out of the radio, but sing songs together. Your library has a lot of great children's CDs, so that's a great option for different music, things that they like, and turn that off every once in a while and enjoy something yourself. My husband and I also like to listen to sermons together. What is it called? Truth for Life Ministries has Alistair Begg as a pastor, and he has great sermons. You can download them to your phone, so they don't take any data when you're out driving, and they don't require using your data from your phone or having Wi-Fi or anything, and you can listen to sermons together. We found with our kids, they get quieter when somebody's talking in the radio like that, so we'd listen to Dave Ramsey or a sermon, and it seemed like they would quiet down kind of and just listen and stare out the window a little bit, so or fall asleep. My kids fall asleep to Dave Ramsey all the time, so those are great options as well. And then my last tip, and this is car travel, and I'll give you a few on airplane travel, is be okay with noise. The nice thing about traveling by a car is they are only bothering you and your husband. So if you can put up with the fact that they are screaming off key their music or just shouting at one another for fun or George was playing like peekaboo with his blanket, and he'd pull it down, and everybody would laugh and scream, and it was so loud in our car. But as long as Jason and I can handle that, then let them be noisy. Like, be okay with that. Yes, a screen would suck your child in and take their full attention, and they would be quiet. And if you need that, maybe you need that. But if you can handle not having them, then continue to allow them to be children just like you would in your own home. And, you know, with them being in the backyard, remember they have to get that energy out. I think road trips and traveling in general is a time to give a lot of grace and not to be overly on to your child. If you're traveling by airplane, one of my favorite things to do is encourage your kids to really people watch and like, who is around us and what can we ask the airline stewardess about her job? What is her favorite state she's ever been to? Or does she like the peanuts or the pretzels better? Or whatever it is, but really talking to your kids and encouraging them to connect with everyone else around them and be entertained by their environment. When you're driving in the car, do you see cows? I am totally that person, the meme that we drive by a cow. I have to tell the whole car we just saw a cow. I just love cows. I don't know. It's just so cool to see cows. But you know, like noticing the environment around them and enjoying them will go a long way to keep them entertained, and putting them in front of a screen will do the exact opposite. So you definitely can do it. I promise it will be good. Enjoy your travel. Tell me in the comments down below the favorite place you've ever taken your kids and one place you desire to take your kids.